2 of What Do You Think About the CFL, a series where I ask CFL fans to answer burning questions surrounding the league and share some data I've collected along with it. First, let's start with a question that has been haunting many for many years, and it's all about expansion. Should the CFL get a 10th team? Where should it be? Halifax or Quebec City? Does it matter? Do we care? Will it ever happen? Has the league done enough? I don't know, which is why I want you guys to tell me.
I think it's a wonderful idea to expand. The more teams, the more competition, the more pretty much stadiums we could go visit as fans.
I think it's something definitely that needs to happen.
1000%. I think it's so important.
I mean, I don't think it's vital, like they absolutely need to expand.
You have every major city locked down, so I don't think there's a huge need to try to push for more.
When you have more teams, you have more audience. When you have more teams, you have more revenue.
I'm a big supporter of expansion for a number of reasons, but at the same time, I think the league needs to be very pragmatic about it.
If we do it, I want them to do it right. I don't want them to rush into anything and then it doesn't work.
Expansion should only be done if it helps the CFL make money.
If you're trying to build up the image of the league, then, the last thing you'd want to have happen is to start a franchise and then have it go belly up like 3 or 4 years later.
There's obviously a lot of hurdles to it, and the league wants to do it, but I feel like if they could financially, they already would.
They were going in the right direction, then COVID really put a wrench into everything.
It was amped up so high at I think it was the 2019 Grey Cup festivities. Like we had the Atlantic Social, and everybody was just so like, okay, sign this petition, like we're gonna get this going and everything. And then obviously COVID happened.
I think it's pretty important. Like I'd really like to see the league get to 10 teams. It just creates a balanced schedule.
You'd have the right number of buys for each team.
Someone's always on bye. Somebody starts off the year on bye.
In the Argos situation, first week is a bye week. Then we have another bye week in week 5, I think, something like that. So it really loads up the back end of the season, which is where you really need to get your players rested.
The stakes aren't high at the moment, if you know what I'm saying. Like more than half of your teams are making the playoffs. And I think that, to me, is a problem.
I don't think it's actually mission critical. I think we really need to sort of focus on the 9 clubs: Row, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. I really think we need to focus on that.
I am a bit critical of the league at times, with the leadership, and it's hard for me to say that they've done enough or not done enough because I don't know the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes.
Rosie gets a lot of criticism generally, I think, but he's trying to grow the league.
Heard Randy and Rosie talk about it a little bit more over the last few months about using like a temporary stadium or starting a stadium with temporary seating and then expanding longer term. That might be the way to go. Having a team in Atlantic Canada just makes so much sense. It would just be fantastic to go from coast to coast.
I would love to see a team in Halifax. I'd buy a season ticket there.
I really like the Touchdown Atlantic. We're hearing that they're going to be doing a Touchdown Pacific. As someone that used to live in Victoria, I think that's fantastic.
A community like Halifax, yes, it's a big city growing, but you need to find the right person to run it.
I see Halifax more as an event city than a city that can sustain over a long period of time.
As someone who's originally from Alberta, but I've now lived in Newfoundland for 10 years, CFL just doesn't really exist out here. Like maybe you'll hear rumblings about the NFL, but because it just cuts off in Quebec, no one really talks about the CFL here. Thinking about people here in Atlantic Canada, especially Newfoundland, if we do get a team, they are so dedicated to that team.
I worked there for several months, week after week after week. And I would, wherever I go, I always talk about the CFL. And the one thing that stood out was that people weren't particularly interested in the Canadian Football League. They were more interested in the NFL.
I don't know if the same passion's out there too. And I think it's a lot of thing too, it's a lot to do with the weather, the climate. Like you get 3 months of nice weather, and then it's back to raining and snow and fog. It has to be a covered stadium for one thing, but I just really don't see the draw. Like even when I was there, I barely heard people talking about the CFL.
Because one of the biggest drawbacks is they don't really have a CFL capable stadium out that way. Even university stadiums out that way. I think they sit 10,000 people.
So if you have a team in Halifax, will they get 20,000 a game? And I over the long term, I don't think so.
But I think they'd be pretty surprised if the product was put on field, just how many people would come in. When Ottawa was coming back to the league once again, all the naysayers, Ottawa's not a football town. Ottawa's not a football town. You're damn right we're a football town. And having the ability to go for training camp to watch the guys do their thing. The love just increases when you're able to do stuff like that as well.
We did the expansion into the States years ago. There was this big push into expansion then. They had a whole slew of teams, and then 1 year later the whole US part of it folded. So was it an idea ahead of its time and it's worth trying again?
Even here in Quebec, this would be Quebec City, great football program, and there should be a team up there.
Well, you have to find someone that's interested in owning the team, and until you do that, there's only so much you can do. With the sale of the Alouettes here recently, it appears that there are folks that are interested because, from what I kept reading, there were multiple groups that were interested. So then that opens up a whole nother thing with the stadium and all that. And, there's teams that are currently in the CFL that need new stadiums, a la Montreal. I like going up to Percival Molson, but it'd be nice to have some place that's our own. I remember speaking with the former president about the tear down and build up on game day, what they would have to go through just to host a game at the stadium, that nothing there was permanent. They'd have 48 hours to set up and 48 hours to tear down. And
the challenge that everyone knows is that there aren't stadiums to support expansion right now.
A lot of people are kind of reticent about public funds for a big stadium. I know in our case in Hamilton, we had the Pan Am Games, and that was used as a reason to get a good new stadium built.
I was around in Victoria when BC was renovating BC Place, and they built Empire Field in 3 months, and it sat 27,000 fans and cost $14 million, which is for a stadium incredibly cheap. So I'm thinking that if that's possibility, maybe something in the Maritimes, something in Quebec City should be very within the realm of possibility.